top racing venues on the continent, the top drivers, manufacturers, and race professionals in the business. North America's premier street stock championship, it's the Motorola Cup. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Montreal and the Gilles Villeneuve circuit for round number 3. I'm Jim Martin, along with Tom Natchu. Tom, if the first 3 races of the year any indication, we're expecting a great championship hunt.
Oh, it's been a lot of fun. Right from the start at Daytona, Joe Aquilante's Phoenix American Motorsports team, the 1997 American champions, absolutely dominant, taking pole, and after a 2-hour battle, they won the whole thing. The driving duo of Stu Hainer and John Heinrichsey, 2 of the best drivers on the continent in these type of cars, showing why they're so highly regarded, ran nearly a perfect race. Hainer and Heinrichsey taking round 1 at the Cathedral for speed.
Round 2 in Florida as well, this time at Homestead. The Powell Motorsports 11 car. Late in the race, a brake failure with Doug Goad through the stones, an unscheduled pit stop to fix the brakes with victory in sight, allowing the BMW M3 of Andy Pilgrim and Terry Borchler to inherit the lead and the win. Borchler and Pilgrim real happy, but the performance of the new LS1 engine and that 11 Firebird didn't go unnoticed by the rest of the field.
Well, then it was on to the first race in Canada for the first of 2 short sprint races at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Scotty Maxwell in the Multimatic Motorsports Ford Mustang dominated from start to finish. So 3 different driver combinations, 3 different manufacturers taking the honors so far this season.
And when we come back, the second race of the weekend here in Montreal, round number 3 of the Motorola Cup.
Today's race brought to you by Motorola, proud sponsors of the North American Street Stock Championship, the Motorola Cup.
And by Geringer, international freight forwarders, custom brokers, warehousing, and distribution, your partner for complete logistics solutions.
And by Sunoco, ethanol-enhanced Ultra 94, the gasoline that powers the Motorola Cup.
We'll be back with race number 2 of the Montreal round of the Motorola Cup after this. Welcome back to Montreal. The car is about to get the green flag. The starting grid on the front row, Scott Maxwell in the 0 Ford Mustang, John Heinrichsey, the black and yellow Pontiac beside him.
And behind them, Doug Goad in that yellow number 11 Firebird, Stephen Earle in the Ferrari.
The third row, Jean-François Veilleux in the Camaro, Terry McDonald-Cadieux in the 26 Firebird, the green, and we are underway here in Montreal. Let's ride along with Scott Maxwell into the first corner.
You can see a left-right combination here that's confounded many a Formula One driver, including Michael Schumacher over the years. Now we've got 2 wide as this Camaro and Mustang battle starts to sort itself out through the carousel.
Scott Maxwell with the lead, a bit of a battle a little further back behind as the 2 Firebirds run door handle to door handle through the carousel, and now onto the top side of the race circuit. The top 3 have straightened themselves out just a little bit. Heinrichsey runs second, Goad is third, Scott Maxwell the race leader in the Mustang.
All right, in the speed shot, you can see these cars on these cold Dunlop tires starting to slide around a little bit, and this battle from about 4th to 10th really heating up with these Camaros and Mustangs.
Hey, one car you want to keep an eye out for the first couple of laps, certainly anyway, coming from the back of the field, Richard Spinard in the Fiorano Motorsports Porsche 911 started 22nd in the field today. The last time I looked, he's somewhere around 12th or 13th already.
Richard Spinard doing it again here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Really loves this circuit. The top 3 American muscle cars, then the Ferrari of Steve Earle, and then a big gaggle of cars behind him. Terry McDonald-Cadieux in the number 26 car doing a yeoman job. Steve Earle goes off, Terry McDonald goes right by.
Steve Earle, a little bobble into the corner there. Decided to shorten the corner a little bit, drove through the gravel, but kept the car running. Didn't get it stuck in the gravel, but has lost several positions out on the racetrack.
Definitely going to take away Old Mo, that momentum that you need to do so well. Steve Earle's move now, chopping down low into the hairpin. Hey, Jim, that's one way to do it.
Well, he sees some people coming. He's still got a little gravel on the tires and knows he might not be quite as quick through the hairpin at that end of the circuit as otherwise he might be. So he's just playing a little defense.
Meanwhile, Terry McDonald-Cadieux and Don Knowles, that battle starting to heat up as they have gotten by the Ferrari. Steve Earle back up to speed. Richard Spinard not too far back behind Steve Earle. Now, Don Knowles down the inside of Terry McDonald-Cadieux. This is going to be close.
Whoa, real close and across the corner. Neither one of them makes the corner. Don Knowles outbreaks Terry McDonald-Cadew, but still doesn't peel off enough momentum to actually make the second piece of that corner.
Terry McDonald's momentum taken away. Peter Lockhart capitalizes on that. One more look, Jim.
Let's take another look as both of them get way to the inside. Terry tried to shade down a little bit. Don Knowles just had enough room to get through the first part of the corner, but the second one, nobody had enough room, and everybody cut that one off.
All right, Richard Spinard, as you mentioned, starting to storm his way through. Now well up into the top 10 as they go around the carousel at that notable casino sign. Richard Spinard, the Porsche 911, prepared by Fiorano Motorsports. Gianni Panico, legendary in Canadian motorsports.
Obviously has done a great job of making sure that car is 100%. Richard Spinard stepping into the car without having so much as one practice lap out here. Doing a great job and already has moved past Jean-Francois Veilleux in the number 89 Chevrolet Camaro.
Terry McDonald beginning to recover. She puts a move on the number 94 Camaro of Peter Lockhart. Now let's look back at Spinard's last pass.
Getting by Veilleux, and the Camaro drives to the inside, coming into the hairpin. A nice clean pass. The forte of the Porsche, he can outbrake just about anybody out on the racetrack.
All right, here's this McDonald, or maybe that's Paul Duckworth now. Paul Duckworth with Terry McDonald-Cadew. My mistake. Those cars almost identical between Lockhart and Duckworth. What a battle these two drivers are putting on.
Hey, a great piece of driving by Terry McDonald as she drives to the inside at the exit of the carousel, and is going to race him into the next quarter as well. And this one, she's got the advantage of the line anyway. A great battle out on the racetrack, side by side. Terry decides to back out a little bit before she has an altercation with the Armco on the outside of that corner.
Right back there in the catbird seat, Richard Spinard waiting for somebody to make a slip so that he can slip by. There's the in-car camera shot from Richard Spinard. Right up alongside Terry McDonald. Under braking, he gets the job done right now on Paul Duckworth's bumper.
Terry McDonald backed out coming into that corner, and Richard Spinard was there in a flash to take advantage of it. Spinard moves up another notch and now has Paul Duckworth in his sights.
All right, down towards the hairpin now. You know that this Porsche is going to be good under braking. Let's take one more look at Richard Spinard, a classic racing pass as he moves alongside Terry McDonald, makes sure that she sees him, and then slips in behind. Terry McDonald really lost no momentum in that, a real mark of two professionals.
Absolutely, Richard Spinard making a tremendous pass. Terry giving him lots of room, realizing that the Porsche is a little quicker, as I mentioned, especially under braking. Now the braking again into the hairpin one more time. Duckworth gives him a little tap as he goes by, though.
Richard Spinard goes a little bit wide. We'll see on the way to this next left-hander. Richard Spinard just enough momentum to carry it, but at least he knows Duckworth is there. Who's that up front? Don Knowles. He's looking in his rearview mirror, sees a Porsche 911.
The 17 Tim Horton Ford Mustang of Bernardo Sanugera slides off the racetrack, and we'll take a look at this pass one more time. Little contact between the Chevy Camaro and the Porsche.
All right, well, that's enough to force Richard Spinard out to the wide angle there, but as we said, carries his momentum nicely through that corner and has got the job done. Meanwhile, right out front, Scotty Maxwell. This is the bird's eye view of what it looks to lead from the pole.
Welcome back. We've got a great battle on our hands for second place. The 19 Porsche 911 of Richard Spinard chasing down that number 11 of Doug Goad, the Firebird. Just out front, getting by a back marker through the hairpin. Look how close Spinard is right now. Up until a moment ago, John Heinrichs was running in second spot, retired early due to an engine failure, but it hasn't diminished any of the action we've got going on the racetrack.
You know, Richard Spinard, so intimately familiar with the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, really picking his spots, right tucked into the draft of the number 11 car of Doug Goad, down towards this big chicane. You can count on Richard popping out, and here he goes.
Absolutely. The Porsche can outbrake just about anybody, and that's exactly what he's doing. Waits till the last possible moment, jumps on the brakes, doesn't drive through the shortcut through that chicane there just in front of the start-finish line, down pit straightaway now. Running in second spot, starting at the back of the field, Richard Spinard. So far the story of the race.
Really doing a fabulous job of really holding up his end on this Denon team. Again, he and Gianni Panico go back a long, long way, right back to Canadian Firehawk competition, where they were a great 1-2 punch. Here's one more look at it. Just as easy as pie, Richard Spinard simply gets out of the slipstream, steps on the brakes, kind of shortcuts the corner by rolling over the curves, but completely in control the whole way around. Jim, Doug Goad is not giving up.
Hey, Doug Goad is right on his bumper, and he's not giving anything away. Doug Goad now all over the back bumper, and then weaves a little bit from side to side to make sure he knows that yellow Firebird's there. Looks to the inside, and he's got just enough room to make it done, get that job done. A great job by Spinard, seeing him coming and giving him room.
Richard Spinard right alongside again as he just takes it right back. That slight loss of momentum of that big Pontiac Firebird of Doug Go resolved that Spinard needed to get by there. You know, I know Richard well enough to know there's a great big grin going on under that helmet inside that 911.
Richard doesn't race nearly as much as he used to. There used to be race weekends when he drive 3 different cars, but he's having a ball out there today. We'll take another look at that pass. Doug Goad steals back second place, and it lasts for exactly 1 corner.
Richard Spinard does not want to mix it up with that bigger, heavier car, but has got a plan right through here, right on the gas, all the way through that little right-left combination. Manages to carry the momentum out there. Doug Goad actually lost trying to get that pass done. Meanwhile, at the front, hey, it's a lonely job out here, Jimmy.
Hey, Scott Maxwell's got this one well in hand again. Scott Maxwell in the Multimatic Ford Mustang now breaks for that corner into the chicane just before the start-finish line one more time. Scotty's doing a great job in the Ford Mustang. The team has really put together a heck of a race car for him this weekend. Gives one of the Zippo Ford Mustangs in front of him a little flash on the headlights as they come down start-finish. This time they get the last lap sign. One more lap.
Well, this is not the first time that Scotty Maxwell has looked in the mirror and said, oh no, there's Richard Spinard. Plenty of Canadian races over the years. This very scenario has played out. Richard Spinard, again, intimately familiar with this racetrack. He's going to pick his places, but right now, Jimmy's got to make up about 15 car lengths.
He's got about 15 car lengths, but he's coming hard. Scott Maxwell trying to hold the Ford Mustang together. The Zippo Ford Mustang sees the Porsche coming, moves over, gives him plenty of room, doesn't want to get involved in deciding who's going to win this race. Richard Spinard closes it up just a little bit through the north side of the circuit. That Porsche 911 is on rails today.
Yeah, really, really running well. And remember, Richard Spinard has not so much as done a practice lap in this car before in his life, handling it well. One thing, you catch Scotty Maxwell, a whole different deal entirely to pass him.
Hey, Scott Maxwell's got a problem in the Multimatic Mustang. It sounds as if there's something amiss in the drivetrain, maybe a clutch problem.
Yeah, it really sounds like he's getting a lot of revs, but now Richard Spinard goes by. Oh no, Scotty Maxwell's day unfolding the wrong way as Richard Spinard takes an advantage of that bobble, probably a mechanical problem as we heard, but Richard Spinard blows right on by, and Scotty Maxwell obviously got the thing tuned up now. He's able to stay there, but oh man, that crucial P1, now the property of Richard Spinard.
Scott Maxwell in the Ford Mustang Cobra R, which has been the package to have all weekend long up until the last half lap. The slipping clutch in the Ford Mustang has relegated Scotty Maxwell back to second place. Richard Spinard's going to come from last to first and win this one today.
You know, it's not the first time he's done this in Motorola Cup competition. In 1996, he did it at the Toronto Molson Indy from last to first, having never done so much as a practice lap. It's Fiorano Motorsports who have prepared this car. Denon, Doug Griesbach and his Denon crew have fielded it for Richard, and what a fabulous job he's done. P1 here at round 2 of Motorola Cup round 3 here in Montreal.
Big slide for Scotty Maxwell coming out of the last corner as they come down, start, finish, the hands out the window, and the checkered flag for Richard Spinard, the winner of the second of our 2 sprint races at the Montreal Grand Prix course today.
There's Gianni Pinico having a big hug from Richard's wife. You know, Richard is so well known here in Montreal as he puts on a show.
Has a little fun? Sure.
They love him. They remember him all the way back to the Atlantic days where he partnered the man who this track is named for, Gilles Villeneuve.
The final results from race number 2 here at Montreal. Richard Spinard in the 19 Porsche. Scott Maxwell holds on for second spot. Doug Goad third in the 11 Pontiac Firebird.
It was a fun race. You know, I didn't practice, I didn't qualify. I jumped in the car, which I've never driven before. It's a brand new car that they give me, but these guys, they always prepare a good car for me. It's a Porsche. On a track like this, you need good brakes. Usually I have good handling, but I didn't have the handling today. I couldn't really drive the way I like to drive. I had to be very careful with the back end. But what choice did I have? My 2 players driver won first and second the race before. I had to show the example, so I had to do very well. I had a lot of pressure on me.
Nice plug for the Atlantic team. Doug Goad and Devin Powell, co-leaders of the Motorola Cup with 75 points each after this one.
In the sports class, Mike Fitzgerald leads Culver Havens McMillan in that sports class chase.
As far as the touring class is concerned, Andy Linder and Paul Kitchen are tied at 53 points apiece.
And it's Hyundai's in a big way in the compact class. Mark Craig and Didier Schranen tied with 87 points. Jeff Warman bringing up the rear.
We'll be back with round number 4 of the Motorola Cup from Mid-Ohio after this. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio for round number 4 of the Motorola Cup. You know, unsettled weather was the story of the race here.
You know, by the time we got these cars ready for the starting grid, we began to see some really ugly clouds on the horizon. We knew that rain was imminent. It's a typical Mid-Ohio day. Midsummer, mid-afternoon shower. The question was, Jim, when was that rain going to take place?
Hey, we had great dry conditions for the start, though. On the front row, Devin Powell and Stu Hayner side by side. The 11 car of Devin with the pole. Stu Hayner, the 32 black and yellow Firebird beside him.
A pair of Mustangs, Jason Priestley and Rick Dishaw right in behind them, and then Greg Wilkins and Joe Kent as we got the start of this race.
Now, right off the top, into the first corner after the green, and we've got a couple cars in the grass as David Lacey and Peter Lockhart do a little off-roading. Everybody manages to keep it in a straight line and gradually gets it back onto the race surface without any other dramatics.
You know, Lacey and Lockhart more victims of circumstance than anything else. You know, very crowded there at the start, running out of room to run. Stu Hayner in the number 32 car gets ahead of Devin Powell at the start and shows the kid a thing or two. Then again, Devin Powell, not really a veteran of this racetrack.
Absolutely. This is the first weekend for Devin on the Mid-Ohio circuit, and actually, it says a lot of good things about Devin Powell and his driving skill, just being able to hold on to the back bumper as we look over the shoulder of Jason Priestley in the number 0 Ford Mustang, who's running in third place, getting a bird's eye view of this little lesson out front.
Jason Priestley, another newcomer to this racetrack as they go by that right-left combination that leads onto the pit lane straightaway. End of lap 1, it's Stu Hayner, followed by Devin Powell, then Jason Priestley, of course, from 90210 fan.
Young Mr. Hayner there showing everybody the way around. Probably has more laps around the Mid-Ohio race course under his belt than any 2 or 3 other drivers in the Motorola Cup.
That's true. That old 1-2 bunch of Hayner and Heinrichs really did a fabulous job here over the years. Now this battle started to shape up. Remember David Lacey in that number 7 Ford Mustang? He's doing his best to take Chris Thompson out in the number 79 car, as these two guys have a ferocious battle going for 11th place. But then again, there's racing all over the circuit today.
David Lacey lost a little bit of ground earlier on. Now it looks as though he's trying to get some of it back as we go by a couple of the other cars which have stopped by the wayside. Chris Thompson, the 79 Pontiac Firebird, drives to the outside. Down through the Station 11 corner once again where they got the green flag off the top. Lacey to the inside, steals away the spot in the CIBC-sponsored Ford Mustang.
You know, there's such a delicious dichotomy of racing surface here at Mid-Ohio. There's those long straightaways that are connected by that big keyhole hairpin. And then this rhythm section, as we call it at Mid-Ohio. It's so smooth, lots of elevation changes. What a great place to race a sedan.
Hey, we got to talk for just a second about this beautiful race course they've got here. It looks like a park. It is that neat, that clean. It's a great place to come and watch a car race as we catch up with the leaders once again, and it's starting to get a little bit gray on the horizon. Those clouds look pretty ugly.
Well, there's definitely moisture coming out of those clouds. A matter of time now before they actually reach the racing surface, and bingo. It happened with Stu Hayner in the lead, and Devin Powell starting to follow him up. Now, Jim, on these Dunlop tires, set up for racing conditions. Maybe the team's put on some intermediate tires, maybe not, but definitely due for a tire change.
I would imagine most of the teams started on the dry tires, the ones shaved down to about 1/4 of an inch or maybe a little bit less than that. But boy, tire selection is going to be what it's all about as we approach the final moments of this race. We watch the Firebird get a little bit loose. Things are really getting slipperier by the second out there as we catch up with Stu Hayner, our race leader in the Phoenix American Motorsports Pontiac Firebird.
Now, we did talk about tire selection and the fact that these really are street tires fielded here by the Dunlop Tire and Rubber Company.
The reason Dunlop is involved with Motorola Cup is it is the perfect opportunity to truly test and show the prowess of our product. In the past, when a sanctioning body looks at a showroom stock series, the tires that are sometimes used are specific rule tires, or tires that are DOT legal, but they're truly race tires in street clothing. These SP Sport 8000s are the same tires that you could buy in any one of the Dunlop dealers, with one exception. These tires are shaved. In other words, part of the rubber is taken off down to about 3 or 4 30-seconds, basically to improve the durability. When you start a tire with full tread depth, you'll get heat buildup through squirm, and that tends to nibble the tires.
Heat buildup is not a problem right now. By this stage of the race, it is just pouring as we catch up to the race leader. Stu Hayner in the 32 Firebird still managed to hold off Devin Powell, who really isn't that far behind.
Yeah, Devin Powell doing a great job both in the dry and the wet. And Stu Hayner, with all this moisture down here, just simply loses it under braking, and he's going to spend some time on the boulevard. Devin Powell gets by along with a couple of other competitors, and now traction the issue.
Absolutely. And they shaved him down to 3/30 seconds for the dry, and that really doesn't give him a lot of grip when he falls off into this wet grass here in Mid-Ohio. Getting off is really a challenge. Finally, he gets it back onto the race circuit. Stu Hainer back underway once again, but he's lost first, second, and I think third place too.
Well, he managed to do it just before pit lane, which is a lot better than just after pit lane. Stu Hainer will report for tires, and John Heinrichsey will get in the car. Won't be long before Devin Powell does exactly the same. Now all of the leaders in. Jason Priestley in the 0 car is changing spots now with Scott Maxwell.
Pit lane, a real busy place as everybody's in at once, including the race leader. Devin Powell will come in for a new set of tires, full depth, and a train of drivers as Doug Bode will get aboard, the number 11 race-leading Pontiac Firebird. A crash out on the racetrack. The 97 Jeff England car takes the 32 Firebird off. Heinrichsey just got out of the pits, and now he's got some bodywork damage to deal with, too.
All right, Joe Aquilani and the Phoenix American Motorsports Squad obviously concerned about this. The key thing is, was the bodywork going to be rubbing on the tire? John Heinrichsey has dodged a very large bullet here, because in fact it turned out the bodywork did not have much of an effect on the tire, although it does have one bloody nose.
Yeah, it's not quite as pretty as it used to be. Nonetheless, the track started to dry out just a little bit, but not everywhere. Whoa, a big slide. Terry McDonald can do with a great job of keeping that in a straight line.
Keeping a tank slapper going straight down the road does take some superb driving skill. Terry McDonald never got out of the gas. He leads that trio of cars all the way down into that corner on this fast bit of Mid-Ohio. And while the windshield wipers are still going, Terry McDonald's skill behind the wheel really shows itself.
John Heinrichsey, in spite of the bloody nose on the 32 Pontiac, makes an impression on Doug Go, drives to the inside, and steals away first spot. Great piece of driving by Heinrichsey under rather changeable condition. It'll dry out for a little bit, it'll rain a little bit more. Heinrichsey, the race leader.
Meanwhile, John Heinrichsey has got a new car in his rearview mirrors. Look at that car. That is Scotty Maxwell, having taken over from Jason Priestley. Scotty Maxwell now in P2 and charging hard.
Hey, Priestley doing a great job with the car, handing it over to Scott Maxwell, and it doesn't look as though he's put a wheel off all day long. It's probably one of the cleanest cars out on the racetrack right now.
So Scott Maxwell's skill coming to the fore here. You know, it's all come together for this Multimatic Motorsports team. Jason Priestley turned out to be a great co-driver for Scott Maxwell. The development of the car has been excellent, and Scott Maxwell has been driving the wheels off it.
Hey, Heinrichsey sees him coming too in the rear view mirror as we watch under braking. The car gets a little to one side and a little to the other. The car's real squirrely under very, very treacherous conditions. The rain picked up a little bit toward the end of the circuit here, and it appears as though John Heinrichsey's got his hands full just keeping it in a straight line, let alone trying to keep in front of the Ford Mustang.
Well, there's wet and there's dry, but the toughest track is the drying track, something that just won't quite give up. So there's moisture down, no standing water, but the track conditions change virtually every lap. And here's a man who's handling it very well. The balance in this Mustang that Multimatic Motorsports has prepared has been very, very impressive in 1998.
Hey, Scott Maxwell seems to have a handle on this one too, as he is one lap after another the fastest of the cars out on the racetrack, and is gradually eating into the lead of John Heinrichsey in the number 32 Firebird. Some back markers come into play now between themselves and the race leader, as we watch Heinrichsey in that 32 car setting up for the corner.
Trying to keep that thing neat and tidy as possible. Frank Del Vecchio now, the car in between Heinrichsey and Scott Maxwell. Del Vecchio as well, got about 1 million laps around this circuit, does a good job of staying out of Scott Maxwell's way. So this was the run to the finish, as Scott Maxwell trying to reel in John Heinrichsey, but John Heinrichsey looking very strong despite the damage in the front right of that car.
Maxwell putting on all sorts of pressure, runs with the headlights on as opposed to just about everybody else on the race circuit. A little flash of the headlights there, if for no other reason than to let the back marker know that he's coming through. Please give me a little bit of room, guys. I'm in a race for the lead.
The great big keyhole at the end of the straightaway, leading on to another straightaway. Scott Maxwell with a nice wide line, trying to carry his momentum. Again, we've said this many times, you can catch John Heinrichsey, getting by him, whole different story.
Hey, these guys really putting on a demonstration of driving skill out here in the wet. Pushing these race cars to their limits is obviously a test in its own right, but on a drying racetrack or one that's getting wet and one that changes from lap to lap, the way this track here has here in Mid-Ohio today is really, really a test for these guys, and they've all done a tremendous job.
A really good look at a one-groove racetrack. For Scotty Maxwell to get by, he's going to have to get out into the moisture, and that's going to limit his adhesion. It's going to be a tough job for Scotty Maxwell. Right down to the last lap here in Mid-Ohio. Heinrichs in the 32 car, Maxwell in the 0 car. It's a classic American battle between Firebird and Mustang.
Heinrichs and Maxwell putting on quite a show for the crowd here in Mid-Ohio, as Scott Maxwell is all over the racetrack trying to find his way around, and John Heinrichs, knowing full well that the Ford Mustang is right behind them, is probably driving one of the wider cars that we've seen in quite a while too.
Absolutely, and now just to complicate the issue even further, we have back markers in the form of Jeff Lapsevich. He's doing his best struggling with that Mustang, but he's got his own position to worry about. Heinrichs is going to try to slip on by.
Gets by the inside of Lapsevich, and the car slides and off into the grass. John Heinrichs, the race leader, slides now backwards on the racetrack. We have a new race leader, Scotty Maxwell, taking advantage of a really unfortunate error out on the racetrack. The Pontiac Firebird sliding wide in the corner there, got it into the grass, and away it went. John Heinrichs soon became a passenger in that one. Didn't have anything to do except wait for it to come to a stop.
All right, there it is. John Heinrichs just slipping off the edge of the circuit. A little contact between Maxwell and the number 17 car of Jeff Lapsevich, but otherwise clean. Scotty can hardly believe it. He can't make it much easier than that. John Heinrichs a little frustrated with himself as he gets his car back onto the surface and sets out after Scotty Maxwell. Now, Scotty working back markers one more time as the rain just picks up again. Last time onto the front straightaway. The checkered flag flies. This is Scott Maxwell's second race win in a row. 2 weekends back-to-back. First at Montreal, now here at Mid-Ohio.
Scott Maxwell, the race leader. Second place will go to John Heinrichs, who hasn't slowed at all, even through the final quarter. He's sliding the 32 Phoenix American Motorsports Firebird through the corner, but not quite enough as Scott Maxwell and Jason Priestley take home a win here in Mid-Ohio. That's Priestley's first professional road racing win.
He's got to be just a happy camper. So Scotty Maxwell makes his round around Mid-Ohio. Look at all the people here in the driving rain. The Mid-Ohio fans are not giving up. They liked what they saw this afternoon.
The Ford Mustang Cobra all are full measure for the victory as he pressed John Heinrichs and pressed. And I don't think the back marker had anything to do with it. Jeff Lapsevich got caught up in that fight for the lead for just a moment. There was no contact between himself and Heinrichs slid off the racetrack trying to stay out in front.
So Jason Priestley climbing out of the number 46 car, celebrating his first ever professional race win in the rain with Scott Maxwell and Larry Holt of the Multimatic Motorsports team.
Hey, Jason Priestley got a lot of track time today, getting out of the 0 car that he started in with Scott and finishing up in the 46 car of the same team.
So the Multimatic Motorsports squad on their way to Victory Circle with Priestley and Maxwell taking the win over Hayner and Heinrichs and Powell and Goat.
Coming up, round number 6 from Toronto of the Motorola Cup next. Welcome to Toronto for round number 6 of the Motorola Cup. It's a gorgeous weekend. We got lots of blue sky in the forecast along the lake shore. Hey, this is the home track for Powell Motorsport. Devin Powell in particular, is they're out to put on a show for a bunch of people this weekend.
Well, at the beginning of the season, Powell Motorsports kind of had a marriage with wheel-to-wheel racing, which is Doug Goad's team. Now, this team is combined right out of Daytona with a brand new engine, a brand new program, and have done very, very well. There was a lot of trepidation, especially with this new all-aluminum LS1 engine, but Doug Goad is feeling very racy about it.
Well, he started out with a brand new car. We started with a brand new engine. We're running the aluminum LS1, and we're the only team running that right now. So at the beginning of the season, we were being pretty careful. We really didn't know what to expect out of the engine, not only from a horsepower standpoint, but just from a durability and how to use the engine.
The Powell team, one of the strongest entries in the 1998 Motorola Cup, but by no means is it a one-team show. As Devin Powell pointed out, there's plenty of room for competition, and the championship isn't over.
Oh, I definitely expect any of the Multimatic cars, Scott Maxwell or Jason Priestley behind the wheel, they'll be right there, and I'm starting to worry about all the other cars on our team. So there'll be a ton of cars up at the front.
And most assuredly, among those cars at the front will be representatives of the Multimatic Motorsports team. They're running Greg Wilkins. They're also running Scott Maxwell and Jason Priestley. They've got a couple of race wins in, kind of setting up a classic North American battle between the bow tie cars and these beautiful Ford Mustangs. The man at the helm, Larry Holt. Not only involved in motorsports, but you know, the Multimatic Corporation also responsible for building suspension parts for cars that are built all over the world. And this weekend, they're bringing 4 cars.
Yeah, you should probably talk to my crew chief, Sean Mason. I broke that to him about a week ago. The car was sort of sitting in the back of the shop, the 45 car, and we hadn't run it since Montreal. And Jason had a bit of an altercation with it at the end of the second race, so it needed some work. So they were going flat out. I've had a couple of guys worked all the way through last weekend, a couple of all-nighters, and here we are ready to go. So they've done a tremendous job.
Somebody else on the team who's done a tremendous job is Jason Priestley in the Ford Mustang Cobra R. We got up with Jason and his teammate Scott Maxwell signing some autographs for some of his many fans. Now, obviously, Jason, who was born in Vancouver, lives in Los Angeles, where he plies his acting trade. Had a lot of detractors as far as car racing, but it's changed.
Driving with guys like Scott Maxwell, and you know, last year I drove with Andy Pilgrim and Scott Maxwell, and you know, driving with guys like that, you know, really helps the learning curve a lot. Guys that are such talented drivers, and also are very good communicators in letting you know what it is that they're doing, so that you can figure out exactly where you're lacking.
Also, the Phoenix American Motorsports team right in the thick of things as well. And not just due to their 1-2 punch of Hayner and Heinrichsey. Joe Aquilante has spent a lot of time putting together an outstanding team. And one thing they always do, Jim Martin, is show up with a lot of cars.
Actually, it's all about building a team. And it's all about getting young people who are volunteers for the most part, work in the dealerships, and teaching them responsibility and let them carry the ball. And I gotta say, I'm really proud of the way it usually works out.
We'll be back with more. Once again, 2 short sprint races, the format here in Toronto for round 6 of the Motorola Cup. Welcome back to Exhibition Place in Toronto for round number 6 of the Motorola Cup. I'm Jim Martin along with Tom Natchew. We had kind of an interesting battle back in qualifying. Doug Goad had just set the fastest lap early in the session, and in the cool-down lap, wow, gets it all sideways and just pulls it back in before he has contact with the wall right at the end of the straightaway along Lakeshore Boulevard.
The turn worker had pulled the flag in for just a second. I thought it was a flash of yellow, so I figured it was like a yellow and the incident was gone. He threw it back out, and it was the oil flag, and I was hunting for the oil. I picked to go left. I picked the wrong side.
Now, right after that happened, the oil was cleaned up. John Heinrichsey did one of those blue moon deals, went out and set exactly the same time as Doug Goad.
I think we had very equal cars between Doug Goad and myself, and you know, we were able to do the same thing, and luckily I had one more good lap that gave us the pole.
John Heinrichsey's second fastest lap, faster than Doug Goad's second fastest lap. John Heinrichsey starts on the pole.
Doug Goad will sit there in second place just ahead of his team car, that number 30 car, driven by Paul Duckworth. He's a veteran of this racetrack. He's been here virtually every year the Molson Indy's been in existence.
Nice starting position for Paul. Scott Maxwell will start 4th in the number 45 Multimatic Ford Mustang. Now, Scott Maxwell coming off a couple of wins already this season, looking for another good result.
Now here's his teammate starting in the 0 car. This is starting in 5th position, Jason Priestley, with the Canadian flag emblazoned on his helmet. A lot of people in Toronto want to get a piece of Jason.
The pretty Sunoco livery on the side of the 94 car of Peter Lockhart. He'll start 6th position in the field. All the cars run on Sunoco Ultra 94 gasoline with ethanol in it.
Our program is really to demonstrate that the performance of the fuel is not restricted in any way with the addition of ethanol in the fuel. And Sunoco has a history of producing high-performance fuels, and the consumer has to understand that the product is as good as it was back in the days of Sunoco 260. Sunoco has always been a leader in high-performance fuels. It is now, and we're proving that on the track. And clearly, if there were problems, the engineers would see that. But as it is, everyone's extremely happy with the product.
As the cars get ready for the start of the race, we're going to come back to round number 6 of the Motorola Cup.
Welcome back as we wait for the green flag and the start of the first of our 2 sprint races here at Exhibition Place in Toronto. It's a big fall fairgrounds that's usually loaded up in September with all sorts of fairgoers and people wanting to ride the rides. Today, it's race fan time in Toronto as the green comes down. The race into corner number 1 is between Doug Goad, the yellow Firebird, and the 32 car of John Heinrichsey.
Oh man, how many times has this happened? Now the 45 Mustang gets right into the thick of things as they go onto this long Lakeshore Boulevard straightaway. This course, a rhythm course, really designed for Indy cars. But when the sedans come out here and run, things start to happen. Now, maximum speed along Lakeshore Boulevard up to 145 miles an hour before a big braking zone into a fast right-hander.
About 100 miles an hour faster than the posted speed limit as they brake for the right-hand corner. This is corner number 3 on the circuit. Heinrichsey, the race leader, Scott Maxwell runs in second. Doug Goad is third. Another of the yellow cars, Paul Duckworth, runs in fourth, but not for long as Peter Lockhart squeezes up beside him and steals away that position.
All right, these guys have been working together for a long time, and Paul Duckworth has just opened up the door and let his teammate Peter Lockhart go. In the meantime, Jason Priestley heating up things in back. That is Terry McDonald-Cadieux in the number 26 car doing her best to get into the thick of things.
This is a stereotypical street circuit, which is the same thing as saying there's lots of concrete around here. If you make the slightest mistake, it's going to be real expensive. There is very little runoff room here at the race circuit they built in Toronto, and for the most part, things have been fairly safe over the course of the weekend. Nonetheless, a lot of these teams are going to have some bodywork damage to contend with by the time this race is done.
So John Heinrichsey has dealt with Doug Goad, and Doug Goad running in P3. Now right up alongside the number 45 car of Scott Maxwell. Scott Maxwell is going to be able to hang on, and the benefactor of all this, the 32 car of Heinrichsey, saying, hey, you two guys keep fighting, I'm just going to pull out a lead here.
An interesting racecraft by Doug Goad as he squeezed the Ford Mustang down as far as he dared to the inside of that corner and then took advantage of it as he was able to hold on to a little more momentum coming onto the longest straightaway of the circuit and stole away second place.
Again, another one of these classic road racing situations between the bow tie cars and the blue oval cars. It's the Chevys and the Fords doing battle here on the streets of Toronto.
It appears as though this particular course is maybe a little bit more suited toward the General Motors products, the Firebirds out front. It seems as though the Firebirds are able to use the slight horsepower advantage they seem to have over the course of the season on that big long straightaway, and that's just enough to hold the Mustangs at bay.
Well, you know, going back 11 years, the old Players GM Series was the first series to compete here on this Molson Indy circuit, so the first ever car to win a race at the Molson Indy was a Chevrolet Camaro.
And it seems as though the F-body cars are out front looking for another win, and we've got a great battle out front. Doug Goad in the 11 car, right in behind John Heinrichsey in the 32 machine. Identical Pontiac Firebird. Slight changes in motor, though. The number 11 car with the all-aluminum LS1.
All right, these guys have done this all over North America. Road America, Mid-Ohio, Watkins Glen. Now they're putting on the Goad and Heinrichsey show right here for over 50,000 fans at the Molson Indy in Toronto, and Doug Goad gets it done.
Doug Goad to the inside into corner number 1. A nice classic passing maneuver. Drove to the inside of the corner, and now whether he's going to be able to hold on to that advantage down the straightaway, a shift into 6th gear as we watch a little bit of dust from the exhaust pipe, and it appears as though Doug Goad has this one well in hand, about a car length separating first and second spot at the end of the straightaway now.
So Heinrichsey sitting back and watching what Doug Goad does, trying to go to school on the way Doug Goad interprets a lap. Remember, their qualifying times absolutely identical down to the 1,000th of a second.
We'll take another look at this pass going into turn number 1. John Heinrichsey squeezed him right down against the exit of the pit lane, but that didn't slow him down at all. Doug Goad, the number 11 Pontiac Firebird, drove to the inside of the corner. A nice, clean, textbook pass for the lead.
Now we have this battle continuing as further back in the field. We have this battle for 10th place, including Jason Priestley, Terry McDonald-Cadieux, and the 17 Zippo lighter Ford Mustang of Jeff Lapsovich out of Hamilton, Ontario.
Big slide by Jason Priestley out of the corner, maybe enough for Terry McDonald to get up beside. Now whether she'll have enough momentum to steal away the spot, and does, into corner number 5. Terry McDonald-Cadieux and the GM Goodwrench Firebird steals away 10th position from Jason Priestley a little further back in the field. One of the best battles we've got out on the racetrack, though.
You know, Terry McDonald-Cadieux doing double duty here this weekend. Also a pace car driver for the PPG people. She's been doing that for a number of years, and as such, very, very familiar with this Molson Indy course for the past 10 years. She's doing a fabulous job in the 26 car.
So the Pontiac Firebird way back in 10th position as again Jason Priestley swings the tail of the Mustang out. That's something you don't want to do too much around here at the Molson Indy course. There's lots of concrete, and hey, the slightest little mistake like that, you're gonna end up with a piece of it.
On board with John Heinrichsey as he continues this battle with Doug Goad. Just about has enough room to get a fender on him. Let's see how this one develops.
Down that big long Lakeshore Boulevard Boulevard straightaway gets up beside the race leader, and he has the line going into quarter number 3. They go from the fastest to the slowest piece of the racetrack. We'll be back with more as the Motorola Cup continues from Toronto in just a moment.
Welcome back to round number 6 of the Motorola Cup. A pair of Mustangs contesting 9th position. This is Greg Wilkins and Jason Priestley in their Multimatic Ford Mustangs.
We ride on board with Jason Priestley into quarter number 3, the end of Lakeshore Boulevard, as he points Greg Wilkins by. The 46 Mustang steals away that 9th spot. Maybe something amiss with Jason Priestley's car. Jason qualified faster than Greg did. A little bit surprising to see the 46 car go by there.
The number 46 car of Greg Wilkins was a little surprised. You see, he got a little out of shape there as he went on by. Jason Priestley obviously had a reason, and this was it. A real close encounter of the racing kind there at the exit of turn number 1.
I have a feeling he may have, almost. Wow. We almost took the mirror off the side of his Mustang with the camera up on top of the wall, the exit of turn number 1 there.
Back up front here, it's the Goad and Heinrichs show here on the sunny streets of Toronto. And this lead has already changed once. It looks like Doug Goad is going to get the job done one more time.
Once again, we watch Doug Goad drive to the inside of John Heinrichs. Heinrichs seemed to have the lead pretty much well in hand. Now, whether he's overdriven the car and maybe used up some of the tires, but Doug Goad made that pass look pretty easy as they come down Lakeshore Boulevard again. About a car length separates first and second spot as they catch up on some of the back markers. The compact class Olds achieving the sport class leading BMW just in front of them there. Now on to turn number 3 toward the infield section, the twistier parts of the racetrack again.
On board with John Heinrichs, we'll have one more look at Doug Goad's car. Just manages to squeak through shades of Greg Moore 1 year ago during the Champ Car race here at the Toronto Molson Indy. So Doug Goad able to stretch that out a little bit as a puff of smoke comes out of the back of John Heinrichs' car.
Boy, it's turning into a lot more than a puff of smoke as he clears out the insects down the pit straightaway here at Toronto. Maybe a big problem for that guy.
All right, well, we've seen these Camaros run before. As it turns out, the story with that car, the engine is sucking some oil under acceleration, but Heinrichs said later, well, my temperature didn't rise dramatically, and as long as the oil pressure didn't drop, he felt like he could keep going. But definitely a hurting unit. All of that oil coming into the exhaust pipes, not doing very good things for the track as well.
Well, certainly not. Making the track a little bit of a slippery place to be. Nonetheless, Doug Goad out front there, gradually pulling away. You see Greg Wilkins in the 46 car a lap down to the race leader now. Nonetheless, he's still in solidly a 9th position. A top 10 finish for Greg Wilkins. A nice result in front of his hometown crowd in Toronto as well today.
Now this wheel-to-wheel racing Powell Motorsports marriage has really started to turn out well. This car has been a contender all year long, but never has run as poised as it's running right now in front of about 50,000 people here at the Molson Indy event in Toronto.
Now, right off the top, we were saying this LS1 motor had really not been tested coming into the 1998 season, and it seems as though it's just now coming up to form as the checkered flag comes out. Doug Goad and the Sunoco Pontiac Firebird team gives him a big round of applause standing atop the pit wall. John Heinrichs will finish in second spot with an obviously not too well Pontiac as well.
All right, we have an opportunity to look at final results. Goad, Heinrichs, Maxwell, and Jean-Francois Veilleux in the Grand Sports category.
The Motorola Cup standings, the Grand Sport totals after 6 rounds. Doug Goad and Devin Powell tied with 162 each.
Scott Maxwell bringing up the rear. In the sports class, Mike Fitzgerald again ahead of Culver and now Robert Henderson.
Andy Linder with a 1.5 point advantage over Paolo Dalcin in touring after 6.
Dave Dietrich, the teammate, right there as well. Mark Craig and Didier Schreinen also in the lead with the Hyundai Tiburons. Then Ed Magner in an Oldsmobile Achievement.
Doug Goad gets out and has had a pretty fair run here at Toronto.
A good enough run to make him the StarTac star of the race. What a performance he's put on. Again, the Heinrichs Goad Powell thing is the harbinger of things to come here in Motorola Cup competition.
Our car was handled real good. That's where the advantage was. The Powell Motorsports Sunoco car was just fantastic. I really think we had it handling on everybody out there on the racetrack today. We didn't quite have the power on the 32, but we certainly had the handling.
Certainly enough to be our StarTac star of the race. StarTac wearable cellular telephones, including the revolutionary new V-Series of phones.
The V-Series phone features a phone book that can contain up to 99 names and numbers. It's also got its own answering machine, and it's got a silent vibra-call alert that can be set to ring or to vibrate when an incoming call comes.
A big weekend for the Powell Motorsports team as its drivers share the lead in the Motorola Cup.
Today's program brought to you by Motorola, proud sponsors of the North American Street Stock Championship, the Motorola Cup.
And by Dunlop. Handle it with Dunlop.
And by STP Products, the edge in high performance. Get your car into STP shape.
We'll be back to wrap it up right after this.
Welcome back to Toronto, where we're wrapping up round number 6 of North America's Street Stock Championship, the Motorola Cup in beautiful downtown Toronto. The Speed Stick Fastest Lap of the Race Award goes this weekend to Doug Goad, the number 11 Sunoco, wheel to wheel. Powell Motorsports entry. What a great race he had, and he got it going fast very early.
I had a pretty soft pedal most of the race. I think we ran a little bit hard there at the very beginning. We set some pretty fast laps. Might have not been the smartest thing to do, but so it was just a matter of trying to conserve and make sure we had something at the end. John started showing a little bit of smoke, and I got an opening with some traffic here on the front straight, and just took advantage of it.
As far as the Castrol most laps led in the 1998 season award, it's being headed up by none other than Scott Maxwell after great runs in both Montreal and in mid-Ohio. Scotty Maxwell currently leads the standings by some 16 points over Devin Powell, who sits in second spot, third Stu Hayner, and then John Heinrichs. We talked to Scott after the run in Montreal.
We fell a little behind at Daytona and Homestead, so this hopefully will get us back in the points hunt, but it's a long season, we're just happy to get the win. That's all I'm worried about today.
The Derringer Award for most positions gained is being headed up by Richard Spinard, owing to a stellar performance at the Grand Prix circuit in Montreal. He went from 22nd in class all the way to first, all in one race. This combination effort between the Denon Racing team and Fiorano Motorsports put together a great car for Richard Spinard.
The only trouble the car was very, very loose from the back end. So I had to pat and then really manage the power very well in the hairpin, especially turning right. And unfortunately, that track turns right most of the time. So I can say I had the handling I would have wished to have. And I think I'm slightly lucky because if Scott Maxwell, I guess, was driving a Mustang, if he had broken on the last lap, it would have been difficult, you know.
Nonetheless, some great races in Mid-Ohio, Toronto, and Montreal as well. We get another look as the yellow Pontiac Firebird of Doug Goad wins in Toronto. I'm Jim Martin. On behalf of Tom Natcher, thanks for joining us, and be sure to come back again for more action from the 1998 Motorola Cup.